Hello, and welcome to another edition of Frequently Asked Questions in Noise, Vibration, and Acoustics. My name is Victor Garcia, an acoustical engineer and associate at HGC Engineering. In this series, we answer questions we get most often from our clients and through inquiries through our website. Questions we often receive include, what are the differences between noise from a stationary noise, such as a commercial development or industrial facility, versus noise from a transportation noise source, such as a roadway or railway? Why can air conditioning or upgrades to the building envelope be used when mitigating against stationary noise? And if we already have to consider noise from a busy transportation source, why is noise from a commercial site, which includes stationary sources, such a concern? As discussed in more detail in one of our previous videos, in Ontario, the sound level limits for both a stationary noise and transportation noise sources are included in NPC-300. For stationary noise sources, the sound level limits vary depending on the acoustical environment. Classes 1, 2, and 3 provide sound level limits for a receptor in an urban, semi-urban, and rural environment. The point at which the criteria applies are both in outdoor living areas as well as at the plane of the window for dwellings. If a receptor is located near a busy roadway, such as a 400 series highway, the sound level limits may also be impacted. A 400 series highway typically has higher background sound level due to traffic, which can result in higher sound level limits above those included in NPC-300. For transportation noise sources, the sound level limits do not vary depending on the acoustical environment. The point at which the criteria applies is both in the outdoor living area and inside a sensitive space, such as a living room, dining room, and bedroom. As the point at which the criteria applies for both stationary noise and transportation noise differs, the allowable forms of mitigation also vary. For outdoor living areas, noise from both stationary noise sources and transportation sources can be mitigated using acoustic barriers. For excesses from transportation noise sources at a dwelling, since the criteria applies inside the sensitive space, upgrades to the building envelope and ventilation systems can be used. For example, air conditioning may be recommended so that windows may remain closed to a transportation source. Brick exterior facade may be recommended to minimize sound coming through the walls, and similarly, windows with higher sound transmission class ratings may be recommended to minimize sound coming through the windows. For stationary noise sources, since the sound level limits apply at the plane of the window as opposed to inside, upgrades to the building envelope and ventilation systems cannot be used. In these cases, at-source mitigation is recommended. This can take the form of silencers, louvers, acoustic barriers, and engineered noise enclosures. When a residential development is encroaching on an existing commercial or industrial facility, at-source mitigation may not always be a viable option. In these cases, mitigation on the residential lands could be considered. This can take the form of property line acoustic barriers or architectural design considerations, such as ensuring windows into sensitive spaces are not provided where excesses may be expected. If mitigation at the source and residential lands still do not provide sufficient mitigation, a Class 4 designation could be requested from the municipality. Requirements for a Class 4 designation include an area that could otherwise be classified as a Class 1 or 2 area, an area that is intended for development with new noise-sensitive land uses that are not yet built, in close proximity to existing lawfully established stationary sources, and the designation must be granted by a municipality. A Class 4 designation provides higher sound level limits above Class 1 and Class 2 to allow for the existing facilities to continue their normal operations. With the Class 4 designation, on-building mitigation can also be used. This can take the form of upgrades to the building envelope, to the windows, and enclosed noise buffers. Additionally, with the Class 4 designation, air conditioning is mandatory, as well as a Class 4 specific warning clause. So this is a brief overview of the differences in criteria between both transportation noise sources and stationary noise sources, as well as the allowable forms of mitigation. We hope this answers your questions, and if you have any further questions or have other questions you'd like to see answered, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.